of a watchtower, you really have just joined another organization. They just bash the organization you came from.
Sure.
So I
Yeah.
would like to go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, and I suppose people are in different stages of their healing. There's going to be a deprogramming phase where you want to look back and reflect and think, oh, well, these are the inaccuracies that I see. But I suppose what I'm also saying is, there are different stages of healing. And at some point, it's nice if you can assimilate that to take your own agency back to move forward, because that's the biggest power going, isn't it? It's not giving our power away to other people. It's being able to be our own power in life.
That is true. I mean, I was saying that's one of the reasons why I developed my channel, even though it's, not a lot of people there. I wanted to see content of you moving on after the Jehovah's Witnesses, because some of us are there. And then there are some people who have been out of the Jehovah's Witnesses for 20 years and still can talk about Jehovah's Witnesses like day in and day out. I don't think I've consumed that much Jehovah's Witness media when I was a Jehovah's Witness. I just think sometimes, it's easier to make that content, but, connecting with other people is really key, because once you deprogram from the watchtower, then you can start being more open to relationships and things like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. While you're on the line, not on the line, but on the live, I'd like to get your opinion really quickly on these clips that we ran backstage.
Sure.
Okay, and here we go.
Many people who were raised witnesses have so many problems later on as adults. And I worked for the court for a number of years, and many of the individuals I worked with were raised witnesses. And it intrigued me how someone raised a witness could end up a murderer, a rapist, involved in some heinous crime. But I found many were raised witnesses and involved themselves in these crimes because they were so. I've discovered that there are many serious mental health problems, and these are quite common. They're not exceptional. In fact, I found about 10% of the average congregation is in serious need of some type of therapy. So we're not talking about a small number.
So what do you think there? I think you said you chimed in backstage that you think the 10% is maybe accurate.
It would make a lot of sense to me. I remember from in my younger days, a congregation I came from, there was an awful lot of ME, fibromyalgia, which could be linked to, stress and things like that. And also there was the Australian Royal Commission, and they were finding up to 10% of some congregations were involved in, child sexual abuse. And unfortunately, from a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses I've talked to, almost everybody's got a story where they knows of something that's happened, An ex-brother at the hall that I was raised in, he ended up going to jail for child molestation,
Wow.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of that there. And there's so many prohibitive practices that we've been told to do, oh, you mustn't masturbate, or you mustn't do this, it's a sin, you mustn't do that, it's a sin. And what we do know is it puts so much pressure onto a person that, that pressure's got to eventually come out somewhere. So from the clip that we just saw, I find it really interesting, because what we've got is that people with all that pressure, and perhaps they're leaving, perhaps they don't have the life skills and the coping skills to deal with that. And then that pressure goes in a really destructive direction,
Yes. And you know what? It's a chain reaction sometimes. When one activist gets triggered, another one gets triggered, and before you know it, everybody's triggered. And we need to learn understand what our triggers are and how we can not make them triggers again. Some people, like you said, it's trauma, or it might be various reasons, but I mean, ultimately, I guess it's your choice to decide whether you're going to wallow or stand up, which is easier said than done. Molly is joining us. She says, wow, 10%, that's crazy. I'm curious to bring that up in my parliament when I get vaccinated and meet with legislators. Good morning, Ronnie. Good morning, brothers. Okay. And good morning, Matt, who's from Australia. Thank you guys for joining us. We are actually going to get off the line. This is not a regular live. I didn't even know you guys were going to be here. I tried to pick a page that I thought was dead, but of course you guys show up when I now, and then I can't get you to show up then. But thank you so much for being with us, giving your expertise here, and I'm hoping that we are having a mental health episode totally directed to mental health. I would love to see if you can come back there and offer your insights there.
Oh, be my
Not
pleasure.
to put you on the spot, but
okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
and we're gonna go say bye.
All right, bye. Thank you.
All right, people.
Hey.
You're gonna start with Miss Molly. All right, and Molly, thoughts about that? While I get this other stuff together here. There we go.
Yeah, so I had a lot of thoughts and now my brain is empty. Anyway, so I wanted to first of all say that it's a thing that we talked about publicly and privately before, that different things help and wake up different people. Like
Right.
for me, it was Jehovah's Witnesses, who claim to be, God's organization, did not step up when I was abused at home, and they actually just told me, just take it until you're 18, and then, so whatever. That's what woke me up. Other than when that was happening, and I was all alone with my thoughts, I call it I logicked myself out of indoctrination. I was like, hold up, this makes no fucking sense. So that's why I always say, you don't know, Lloyd Evans content is great for when you're waking up, when you're doubting doctrine, when you're untangling your attachments and your thoughts about the organization. And like you said, other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have been out for so long, and basically their personality is being ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's also an unhealthy attachment. So for me, what helped and what I feel is most helpful with regards to leaving the organization and with regards to dealing with bigotry, which occurs and to which we are oblivious, and because we are trained to be like, oh, I don't see race, and it's like, well, good for you, but the world does, So what you have to do is, first of all, educate yourself and try and find your weak spots, as in like, hey, what's a topic that I'm not too knowledgeable about? What's going on in the world? Even if you just take like 15 to 20 minutes a day to check the news, and
because politics and feminism and marginalized groups such as people of color, you have to be involved in politics. There is no way in the world. Otherwise, you're just out there marching with signs.
Right, and that's another thing, is that you will need to interact with, opposing worldviews too. Like interact as in like, you will need to try and understand even those points of views that you disagree with. Not engage, just hear once and see what they are talking about. I know exactly why and how a homophobe's mind works. Not because I like to trigger myself, or not because I seek it out. It's because I interacted with some of them, and I put the pieces together. But the point is that it's important that we make friends who are not attached to Jehovah's Witnesses in any way, because it's easy to get tangled up in the trauma porn. Like, oh my God, I was abused like this, and you were abused like that, and we, and Spence, you and I, if I can say that, you and I, we discussed that we were abused and hurt by our parents, by the org, by other
Right.
XJWs.
And can I just
But
interject for a second here? And we talk about the fact me and you don't share the same ideology about everything. Like, I
mm,
personally think we pick ourselves up once because of my experience of getting people out of the code, starting with my family. Once the Jehovah Witnesses faced with dissonance, they make a choice whether to fall back to sleep or be
right.
awoke. It's like the pill or the blue pill. I want to get Simon in here, or now he's dealing with the kids. I think he's about to run back in the room. Hang on. Okay, yeah. Joshua, you're gonna close us out because we have about 15 minutes less in our stream. So I guess for me, I think what I appreciate about that interview was the fact that she was a testament to what you can do outside of the extra Jehovah Witness, tribe. I think Joshua helped me appreciate that. The co-founder of Black Lives Matter. She obviously took a different direction in her activism, and they're almost up for a Nobel Peace Prize. I love to see extra Jehovah Witnesses doing well. I love to see them working in their craft. I love to see them developing and figuring out what the craft is, and to see them recreate their identity after being stripped of it as a Jehovah's Witness, because we're not allowed to wear afros or do anything that would detract from the message. Although you see, white Jehovah's Witnesses, they wear their hair long. Apparently, it's a bad thing if black people do that. They were also always policing men's facial hair, that sort of thing. Like they strip you of your culture to say this is your new culture now. This is the new clear language. This is what we do. You look at the magazines and you're trying to be like them in the magazines because we're not allowed to have personal heroes besides Jehovah and Jesus. Would you agree, Simon? Are you back? I know you're always talking about this Jordan jersey that your father made you pass up on. He was wearing what number again? Sorry.
He was wearing number 12. But
Yeah.
I really appreciated her interview. She spoke about some really powerful things. I think number one, most importantly to me, is that after leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, you have to put in work. You have to be motivated to recovering and healing from a lot of the damage that we subconsciously go through. It stunts your growth in so many areas. You're not used to dealing with disagreements. You're not used to dealing with different points of view because as a witness, you share one point of view. So now, as people of color, we've always known that one of the byproducts of racism is distraction. It can distract people from moving forward. It can distract a society from growing. It can distract a people from having success. What it does here on Facebook is, as we try to gather as XJWs, it distracts us from healing. So in order to change something, it needs to be faced. So that's why I think it's very important for us to have conversations like these, not just now, but continually, and as long as it takes in order for change to happen. I invite anyone listening to this, whether you're a person of color or not, to stand up against racism, to be anti-racist. If you're not taking a stand for it, well, if you don't come up against it, then you are choosing the side to side with the racism. Right? Either you're against it or you're with it. And I think that, again, those with platforms, those with the ability to express themselves, continue to do so. I know it seems like it's an uphill battle. We've been doing it for so long, but this is a fight that's very, very worth it. And again, like I say, I enjoyed the part that she said that we have to heal. We have to do some self-work. We have to put the work in. It's this quote I kind of like. It says that the only place that success comes before work is in a dictionary. So, you have to roll up your sleeves. You have to deprogram from the organization. You have to find value in, the life you live and the life that you share with others.
Thank you, Simon. That's so true. And I'm just going to say briefly that to piggyback off what you're saying, that again, and I can't reiterate this. This is me and Molly talk about this a lot. You cannot be an activist with a substance abuse problem, like a really bad one, right? You cannot be an activist, in my opinion, if you are still angry at the Watchtower as the day you left 20 years from now, and you refuse to get help, you refuse to get therapy to walk you
Right.
through this. And so what you're doing is you're not helping, you're hurting more than helping. There's one particular, we're going to talk about this in episode 2 of the problematic, because this is not just all about Rick. Whether y'all choose to cancel him or not, that's your decision. We have given you plenty of information for you to have, for you to know that people of color and blacks are hurt by what's going on here. So now if you choose that side, or you want to coddle your friends who are casually racist, you at this point it is a decision, because everybody got Google. It is not, Joshua says it's a lot, and I love it. It is not black people's job to expend their
Right.
pain, expend their hurt, just to try to figure out, because you can't figure out how to Google something in 2 minutes. So Joshua, why don't you go ahead and close us out here? You're on mute, brother. Hang on 1 second. There you go. You was on mute. Go ahead.
I want to thank everybody for just allowing me in the space to just share like a brief snippets of my experience with Rick Fearon, because that just seems like that's the salt on the wound that's now. But this is not, like you said, a specific Rick Fearon problem. It's a problem in most of the spaces in the XJW community. And I love what Simon was saying about standing up, about putting in the work. It definitely takes work. And I just want to share my motivation and what I do, because it's like, damn, it's now going on 6 years. And thankfully for me, there's times I'm totally out of it. Like, the last thing on my mind is Watchtower or the JW or the XJW community. And then I kind of revisit it again. But what I found, what's motivated me so much, for so many years, I was not allowed to have what was considered a political opinion or opinion on race or race relations and everything. So all my life until I was 40, when I left, I felt like I had a muzzle. So being out of the organization, it's just years of bent up frustration of not being able to speak on what I really felt. And so even though I'm no longer a Jehovah's Witness, and I think I'm a different type of XJW than what I was before, as I go into other spaces outside of this JW bubble, whether it's, the music I practice, my Afro-Puerto Rican bomba music and that community, the hip hop community, or just, other spaces that have to do with different types of advocacy and social justice for like domestic abuse, spousal abuse, cultural awakening, so many other things that I'm opening up my mind to outside of JW. What I found is the problem of white supremacy and white comfort and white privilege and systemic racism, institutionalized racism, homophobia, transphobia, that's happening everywhere. I found out that no matter what group I go to, these things are happening. These conversations are being suppressed. People are sweeping it on the rug because society has conditioned, non-melanated people, white people, that conversations about race and discrimination and all that, it's impolite to talk about those things. There's this notion that the more you talk about it, the more you're not moving on, the more, and so there's a quote that says, uncomfortability is the enemy of comfortability, is the enemy of progress. And so I just want to say, in the time that I've been at XJW, where I was not healed, where I shouldn't have been probably doing activism, where I was all over the place, to a time where I've kind of keeled off, I want to say, I've met some amazing people in the XJW community. I've, aside from all the negativity, I've met people that I'm still friends with today. And when I got back after you, Spencer, kind of like, revitalized me on this situation that we're having, I was just on a phone call just the other day with somebody that is a very private person, a very reserved person, and person of color. And this woman told me, says, "I am so happy you're back speaking up again. I love following you, and I think you're encouraging to me." And now this person wants to do a segment. She wants me to interview her, and I'm like, she doesn't even want to be like hidden or anything. She wants to show her face. So like that gives me like a charge, like it helps keep me going on, because there are people, believe it or not, you never know what impact you might having, but I've been able to meet some people that have encouraged me to keep going, and I'm encouraging them to keep going. So this is a conversation that still needs to happen. I know it gets tiring to keep on having to have this. There's people that don't want to hear it, but to the non-persons of color listening to this, if you're tired of hearing about it and hearing us talk about it, we're tired of living it. And I guarantee you, we don't want to necessarily talk about it all the time. I don't really want to talk about this now. To be honest, I really didn't want to talk about this. The problem is we're constantly in situations where we're under assault with these microaggressions and things that we have no choice to talk about it because of self-preservation, self-love, self-respect. We know we don't have to tolerate that anymore. So that's all I have to say about that, unless you want to, I don't know what else you have left for us, but I just appreciate all the time you've given for me and everybody else to kind of
I'm excited about our partnership, our collab. I'm more excited about our button friendship because in the past we didn't always share the same ideology, but I will say that you have always left the door back open for me to be able to speak. And as much as I am really tired of fighting races in his Rick Fearon's group every single day, you listen to me. I was crying. I was in tears. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I did tell a few people that I was not going to be back in Jehovah Witness activism for a while. But then the group member of B2K, Raz B, came out as a sexual abuse victim, and he reached out to me. And I felt like, okay, well, this is something that I can totally believe in. He has a lot of Jehovah Witness family, but he is not a Jehovah Witness himself. So it's just watching his journey and partnering with him. But I have to say, Josh, I am taking a break. I'm taking a break after this. And I'm glad we're collabing with this together.
Yeah. Listen, there's some funny, crazy, wild ass people that I don't want to call them in the JW community, but people that were former Jehovah's Witnesses that I've made that have funny stuff to say. Like I said, I have fun stuff, that I'm planning, and you have some stuff for planning. I'm going to disagree with you on one thing. I don't think any of us have had, this is just the way I see it, I don't think we've ever had separate or different ideologies. I think we just have different approaches.
Yeah.
And we're all at different levels of healing and progress. There's certain things where I think I may be a little bit more advanced or progressed in certain things, but as advanced and progressive as I am, there's things that I'm still like a baby and working on.
Yeah, and we all grow.
And where a person, there's things that I've met people that just left the organization that have been able to shrug things off like day one. It's not a big deal to them, and it was to me. So I'm gonna give an example. I think up until like when I got involved with Black Lives with BLM and working with the LGBTQ community, I didn't realize how many patriarchal, homophobic, just the way language I used that was very triggering to women.
Yeah.
And I thought but I'm here to help you. You don't know how many times out there in the world, outside of JW, where these white, and I'm saying a lot of these white feminists that were putting in the work, that were allies, had to totally just like rip me a new one and put me in check. And it hurt. And I after a while, I had to just shut up, self-reflect, and do better because I didn't have no idea. Because I was so long conditioned to saying certain things, speaking a certain way. And
can I offer this as well? At least you were open to the possibility that you might be wrong. At least you didn't held on to your ideas because you don't want to be wrong. Now, there is a Karen who out here right at this moment whining about the fact that I tried to correct her on her microaggressions and her white splaining, and making justification for the shit she do. Like just mean, this racist ass mean. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Next week, we're gonna get into our episode 2. Joshua and I have been working on that, and we're gonna talk about tone policing, white splaining, all that stuff that you put down. Microaggression, so that
we're never stop. Even if you stop being in the XJW community, you're gonna be at some other community, whether it's online or in person, or a job you're on. And you know, unfortunately, we might say we want to leave the XJW community because we're tired of the bullshit. But we're gonna be out there in the world. We're still gonna have to deal with microaggressions. We're gonna still have to deal with toxic masculinity. You know, transphobia, homophobia. This is just what society is right now. Yeah. You know, like I look at all these people that never had anything to do with the organization, and they're bugging out because they're detached from the world and they have to be on Zoom and they miss people. And I'm like, hey, welcome to our world. That was our world when we were an organization. We couldn't associate with nobody, and we had to do all this. Right. You know, right now people are upset about Pepe Le Pew and Cardi B and all this stuff. So you can't get away from it. You know what I'm saying? It's just part of life. You know, you just gotta either get involved or get out the way. Right. And, so I was gonna let you guys or your head in the sand. So I think I have a responsibility, because if I'm gonna be out there and I'm gonna be on the side of justice and equality, whether I'm an activist out there with signs or just in my everyday of life, I know that there's a segment of the population which is called the XJW community, which is called the ex-Mormon community, the Scientology, all that kind of stuff. I know that these are institutions, and we're supposed to be, if we're true to ourselves, if we're real, we're supposed to be about dismantling institutionalized racism, the dismantling systemic racism. And if we don't do it, who's going to do it in the XJW community if we don't? That's just...
I get it, because we have new people behind us, but I will offer you this. For races that I know you know, for people I know you've been educated, okay, I'm not expending my nothing for you, okay? And then I think that it is also really important I'm only doing this now, this particular live stream, because I know for sure that there were Black people and people of color jumping in my mailbox about this one Karen that have opened my eyes completely. And when I tried to confront her about it, she was combative, white-splaining, didn't want to hear it. And we're going to talk more about different kinds of problematic behavior. We're not necessarily we're not calling people out by name only than Rick, because if you somehow find some agreement with Rick said, I don't care what that man said on the lie. There is no way she should have dropped the N-word. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and close out. Like I said, we are working on next week's episode. We've already prepared for it. If you can't fight systemic racism, you can't fight white supremacy if you don't know what it is. So what we're going to do is do a job of educating next week. Joshua is going to be co-hosting. I don't know if I'll be co-hosting. I might be a facilitator. We'll see. But we will keep you guys updated. And we want to thank you guys for joining us. Again, we'll let you know when we come up with the next episode. So we're going to sign off because Molly got to go to bed, y'all.
Hi, Molly. Nice
Thanks for joining us, Molly.
Thanks for